The last 1 year has been a year of devastation and violence for Gaza, but there were some moments amid the doom and gloom that kept the hope for peace and humanity. In November 2023, after weeks of negotiations, a deal between Israel and Hamas led to the release of 50 Israeli hostages in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. The agreement also included a temporary ceasefire. By the end of the extended truce, 108 hostages had been freed, including women and children, before hostilities resumed in December. In September 2024, a polio vaccination campaign reached its target of 90% of children under 10 years of age. The campaign was carried out in phases over 2 weeks during humanitarian pauses in the fighting between Israel and Hamas. More than 152,000 children are vaccinated in Han Yunis, nearly 8,800 in Rafah, and another 1,000 elsewhere in the southern Gaza. The promising development follows the successful completion of the first phase of the vaccination campaign in central Gaza. The combined coverage for central and southern Gaza now stands at 354,786 children. In July 2024, doctors in Gaza delivered a newborn baby against incredible odds, pulling him from his mother's womb moments after she was killed of wounds sustained in an Israeli airstrike. At 9 months pregnant, Ola Adnan Harb managed to survive just long enough to reach the Al-Auda hospital in central Gaza after an overnight strike hit her home in the Nuseirat refugee camp. She was rushed to the operating room but was already dead. Unable to save the mother, doctors had detected a heartbeat and a team of surgeons was called. After a C-section, baby Malik Yassin was born. Early in April 2024, a baby was delivered safely and alive from the womb of a 7-month pregnant Palestinian woman who was killed during an attack by Israel in Gaza City. In May 2024, hope arrived in Gaza through a temporary pier in the Mediterranean Sea. The humanitarian maritime corridor was used to deliver shipments of urgently needed humanitarian assistance, with the number of land crossings falling dangerously low. The pier was a needed effort to provide help. This corridor was a multinational and combined effort led by the United States. It was to be used to move aid from a range of partner governments to humanitarian organizations ready to facilitate its distribution to Palestinian communities throughout Gaza. As bombings and ground invasions devastated the healthcare facilities in Gaza, the staff of Doctors Without Borders worked tirelessly throughout a year of devastation and violence. They provided care to patients while bearing the burden of war on a personal level, including the loss of loved ones and repeated displacement by Israeli forces' evacuation orders. Let's now listen to some of the expert voices on how far Israel has come a year after October 7th Hamas attack.
What has happened, though, is throughout the year, these smaller escalations that began on October 7th last year took on a life of its own. All of a sudden, at the end of July, Israel and Hezbollah started escalating their attacks at each other, regardless of what was happening in Gaza. That's now led to an Israeli invasion of Lebanon. The attacks between Israel and Iran. Back in April, the first time in history that Iran actually attacked Israel directly. Now they're attacking each other. The Houthis taking on its own dynamic. It didn't happen exactly the way Hamas wanted, but ultimately, that was what they hoped would happen, the entire region engulfing Israel into a war.
Netanyahu has embarked his country on a political objective to bring peace and security to the people of Israel using military means that cannot succeed. And now here we see a year later, not only has he not succeeded in the Gaza Strip, that war still rages on to this day, but now that it's expanded to this total of 7 different theaters and is on the verge of exploding in a major war against Iran.
the beginning of the war in Gaza, more than 41,000 people have been killed. The majority of them are children and women. Almost 96,000 others were injured. And up to this moment, more than 10,000 people are still missing under the rubble.
The Israeli forces are still meeting organized Hamas resistance in Gaza, with Hamas still able to recruit new fighters. The fact that Hamas today, on the anniversary of its terrorist atrocities, was able to fire some rockets into southern Israel underscores that it remains a fighting force. Now, this is, for Israel, this is a painful reality.
Fire is not the right way to end this. This has to end with the ideology that has created the war to end. Because Hamas is not some alien organization that arrived in the Gaza Strip. Hamas is the most brutal executor of the Palestinian ideology, which is shared by almost all Palestinians, which opposes the existence of a sovereign state for the Jewish people in any part of the land. So this ideology has to die.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.